Alright, so today we're going to be talking about The Death of a Salesman, which is a brilliant play written by Arthur Miller. And normally these videos would have like a spoiler section and a non-spoiler section. There really isn't that many spoilers in this book, save for one big one, which, shocker, is the death of the salesman. So there really isn't any spoilers, so I'll just kind of stick right to the normal plot and keep on trucking. So, getting right into it, this play, it revolves around the Loman family, which is, it has Biff and Happy, who are the two sons of, uh, Willie. Jeez. Willie, who is the salesman, he is the central character of this play, and then his wife Linda. It revolves around them, and so this play opens with Willie coming back from a big old business uh, round that he goes on. He goes on a lot of business trips to try and sell things, and he just keeps talking about the car that he drove in and how it was so difficult for him. And he talked about the car for quite a long time in the first few pages. So that even there gave you an inkling of information that the car would be an important factor in this play. And Biff and Happy are his two sons, and they're both living with him right now, and they're in their 30s, which is why it's kind of a weird thing, but they both haven't really been successful. Biff has been working some off and on jobs for about 14 years or so, and uh, Willie. Willie is also kind of going nuts, would be a kind way of putting it. He seems to have a lot of these episodes where he just relives the past very vividly, and he's reliving them in real time, so all of his family sees him just kind of going crazy. And one of the big things that he keeps reliving is this high school football game that Biff had. And Biff, when he was in high school, he was like, everyone loved him. And honestly, that was just about it. Everyone loved him. He was just really well liked. And that was exactly what Willie wanted. Willie believed that the key to success was being well liked, because that was instilled in his mind for some reason. So he instilled that into both of his sons' minds. And for that reason, I believe none of them have been successful. Because if you look at their neighbor, Bernard came over in this flashback and told Willie that he needed to take Biff with him to study for a math test, because if he didn't pass that, he would fail math, and then he would flunk high school. Or flunk math, fail high school, flip him around. And Willie just pushes him away, saying that he doesn't need to pass this math test. He has everything that he needs to be a successful person. When actually, in the real time, you see later on in the play that Bernard is actually a very successful person. He's actually going to the Supreme Court to do a case, and Biff is obviously not. So really, you could see that Willie's ideals were constantly just incorrect. He was living in a fantasy. That's a big thing in this play, I think, is Willie's fantasy. He had a strict idea for how everything was and how to accomplish things, and that's what he instilled with his children's, which is why children's children, and that's why he also became, he has always kind of been, since the beginning of this play, not always, but from the opening of the play, he has a sort of distaste towards Biff, and this is partially because Biff has not fit in to what Willie has wanted him to fit into as a person, and for him to become a successful person, Biff hasn't really followed what he has wanted, so he has never fulfilled the potential that Willie thought that he had. And so, when he's going on, back to the plot, goodness, when Willie's going on one of his episodes in the beginning, uh, Biff and Happy over here, they come downstairs, see what's going on, basically, it all eventually it's not really resolved, but they all just kind of go to bed. And then Biff comes up with the idea that he's going to talk to an old employer that used to love him, and everyone in the family was like, "Oh yeah, he really loved you. He'll give you a loan, and you and Happy can go make your own business in Florida. Call it the Florida Plan." And he went to that person, and turns out that person had absolutely no memory of him because Biff just worked in a very like low section of the company. But his entire family, because of this fantasy that Willie had and everything, they had built another fantasy that this person had actually really liked Biff. And so he didn't get the money. And earlier that day, Biff and Happy had asked if they could take Willie out to dinner that night. And so Willie was all excited. So they had their bad day not getting that loan to start a business, so they were going to have to convey that to their dad. And Willie went into work, and basically he got fired. And then he went to Charlie, who is Bernard's dad, and who he's been borrowing money from to keep himself and his family like alive for the past few months. And Charlie offered him a job, but he was too prideful to take another job because he felt that he was successful. He still had that fantasy that he was successful, even though he hasn't been successful basically his entire life, which is so sad. This is an awful play. Not actually awful, but on your heart. It'll just hurt you. Um, so then they meet for dinner. Willie unloads on them that he got fired, and he is just devastated. And Happy is trying to avoid the truth that they didn't get the loan. But at this point, Biff has kind of come to terms with the fact that he needs to just be truthful. And like part of the reason that they haven't been successful is due to the fact that none of them have been really truthful to themselves for a while. So he's telling his dad the truth in that they didn't get the loan, but Willie is just not believing it. He says, "No, you'll just have another meeting tomorrow. That's what you're doing. You're having another meeting with him tomorrow about the loan." And they get in a huge argument. Willie goes off to the bathroom, freaking out, and the two boys leave. And then in the bathroom, Willie relives another memory, which is where you learn that one of the biggest not the biggest, but a big reason that Biff has had this disconnect from his dad for so long is that he went to go visit his dad on one of his business trips one time, and he walked in on his dad having an affair. So, him reliving this, it kind of shows that Willie thinks that Biff doesn't like him purely for that reason that he caught him having an affair, which I don't think is entirely true. It's due to the fact that like his entire life, um, Biff has uh, mm, train of thought just disappeared. We're gonna ignore that tangent or whatever that was. Anywho, back from the whole freak out, someone finds him in the bathroom, offers him to take him back, and then Biff comes home, and Willie comes home later that night, and Biff and Happy basically just get sassed. Sassed is a very light word. Out by their mother for leaving their dad alone, freaking out in a restaurant. And then he goes out. Biff goes out to his dad, who's frantically planting in the middle of the night, uh, to try and just discuss things with him. And Biff is saying that he's going to just leave, and he thinks that it would be better if they don't see each other again. And then basically, after just some conversation with each other, and Willie's also having a conversation with his dead brother, because that's Willie, and they work everything out. Everyone's in a good mood, and everyone goes to bed, and then Willie, while talking to his brother, realizes that he has $20,000 in insurance benefits, and that that might be the only way to help his family. So, throughout the entire play, I forgot to mention this. Perfect. He has been contemplating suicide. He's attempted suicide, and in the end of the show, he does take his own life. And then in the Requiem, which is the ending, after his death, only Willie's family and the neighbors, Charlie and Bernard, show to his wedding, which is the opposite of what Willie told Linda would happen, because he said that there was a very successful businessman, much like what he described himself to be, who, like all these other successful people, showed up to his wedding and it was just full. So that was just kind of a confirmation of the fact that his fantasy that he lived never really held any ground. Um, so there's the plot. I discussed a lot of like my thoughts on the themes of everything, but honestly, I just think that this play is so well written, and there are constant allusions, because I've seen this show done live before. It's been like 5 years, so I didn't really remember much of any of it. And but if you look through all of the play, there are constant foreshadowings through the words, and just it is a tragic story, because Willie really, he just wanted to do good for other people, and he just wanted other people to view him as this amazing person who he really wasn't. And the ending, the second act in its entirety, is basically that fantasy collapsing in on him, which is why the big fight in the restaurant was a huge thing, because he was trying to hold on to his fabrication that everything was working out, in that Biff was getting his money from that person, and him and Happy were going to be able to start their company. And he was trying to hold on to that, which is why he just wouldn't believe that Biff didn't get any money from his former employer. And I'm trying to remember some more things. It is just I mean, I finished reading it like 30 minutes ago, and I mean, my mind is still just kind of like racing, because it's just so rich and full. I don't know how Arthur Miller came up with that. I don't understand how many writers just come up with this much stuff to just pack into a book or a script, let alone where all of these things come forth, and they're just picket like tiny little pockets where it's like it's alluding to something else, which means something else, but this also means this. I it's an amazing script, definitely for a review. 10 out of 10, 5 stars, two enthusiastic thumbs up. Would recommend. But yeah, no, it's a really deep play. It gives a lot of insight into big thing is the American dream, how that can be misleading, how people view it, and how it really doesn't really hold true to everyone's success. And I mean, yeah, it's brilliant. I definitely read it or see it. Do what you want.